Hey guys, Kyle the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for My Hero Academia, chapter 174. And the first page right off the bat, we see Izuku completely taken out of the out. In the first page of the chapter, we see that Izuku wasn't completely taken out. He was just moved to staging, which, on one hand, I think it would have been better to remove him entirely out of the whole event itself, but on the other hand, depending on how this is handled, we could see Yaoyama and Nizuku's bond developed, and this does set up a dilemma of basically him figuring out of pretty much how like he said in this chapter of how he can figure out how he can fulfill his promise to Eddie of dancing with her, but yeah, like I said, I wish we could have I almost wish we could have removed Izuku entirely out of this equation, but I I can understand of him needing to still be involved. So yeah, and I but I actually will admit I am kind of even though I do wish he would have been removed entirely, I do kind of enjoy the fact that Izuku keeps getting that rather than keep getting promoted like any normal shonen protagonist, he actually keeps getting demoted into a lower position on the whole crew, on this whole concert crew and whatnot. So yeah, it's funny how Orokoshi is keeping up with the whole thing of playing with these cliches and whatnot. So yeah, um, but after that whole thing of after that, we pretty much cut back to Izuku, who's continuing his training with All Might, and we get deeper into the purpose of that training within that single panel of which is that it's not only to develop a new technique, but also to master one for all in such a way where Izuku won't have to rely on the specialized aspects of his costume as a crutch. And I really like All Might's comment about support items because it does actually address the dangers of relying on them too much. And as cool as Izuku's shoot style is, the biggest flaw it does have is the heavy reliance on support gear. And after this, I imagine that Izuku is of course is going to still be using the support gear, but I think I think the purpose of this of us knowing that of us learning that and All Might's views on support gear almost is that I think I think that's Horikoshi's way of conveying to us that this is also going to be an opportunity for in order for Izuku to in order to break out of a lot of bad habits he's had in the past, like for instance him Izuku factoring in support gear into his fighting, and also and also another bad habit he's had is worrying so much about maintaining control. But with this training, he will be able to get rid of. He will be able to at least decrease the amount of time he actually thinks about these two things. Like it's gonna. I think this training is gonna end up producing the. I think the dependence he pretty much has on the support gear aspects of his costume, and if he manages to do this training right, then I think like he probably there is still probably going to be that small part of him that still kind of thinks about maintaining control. But I think with this training, he probably won't have to worry as much. He probably won't have to worry about as much as he has in the past about maintaining control, because I I think by the end of this, he will have an extremely steady amount of control to the point where he won't have to worry as much. He won't have to worry as much about it. So so yeah. Also, I felt this chapter was throwing a little shade on Hatsume. I mean, especially with the whole support gear comment. I know she's more concerned about about selling her inventions than actually being a hero. But if you look at Hatsume as a character, her whole thing is based around support gear. And granted, I'd say that Hatsume has a better understanding of pretty much how the whole support gear system thing works. But if Hatsume in the end ends up becoming an actual hero, then she is severely limiting herself. Unless, of course, we end up getting a side thing of seeing her actually, seeing her actually having developed her quirk or whatnot. Because yeah, Hatsume is a prime example of basically of the one thing of the one lesson in this whole thing of relying on support gear can be a pretty can in fact be a pretty nasty, a pretty unfortunate, pretty unfortunate, a pretty unfortunate crutch. However, I will say that I think the one thing All might not have really taken into account is that really I guess at the end of the day it really all depends on the quirk, because if you think about it, Hatsume's quirk, it isn't really the isn't really the fighting type quirk. So I want to assume that the one All Might was maybe even talking about that is that it I guess the whole support thing in general, it really all depends on the type of quirk you have. In Izuku's case, if he used too much support gear, he would be limiting himself. But I think probably in maybe Hatsume's case, it is a little more of an advantage to her. But yeah. Also, so I'm not sure if Horokoshi is trolling the audience with Gentle or if he's actually serious at this point, because he says his invasion of UA is to help the students grow stronger. But I don't know if that particular part is actually the case. I mean, I want to assume it is, especially based on that last page. But we'll get to that. But yeah, like half the time I can't even tell if Horokoshi is trolling us with in turn. If Horikoshi's even trolling us with Gentle, or if he's actually serious, because a lot of what Gentle was saying was pretty over the top, and yet somehow I also found myself even partially agreeing with what he says, because even though the part about even though the part of the even though the part of the invasion helping the students of UA is a little sketchy, I definitely believe that his invasion is going to put the final nail in the coffin of a problem UA has had for a long fucking time, which is the security issues. Gentle says that the biggest problem that the UA has is basically a pretty much low is pretty much an extremely low awareness on crisis prevention, meaning they don't have enough measures in place to keep these students safe, and they've never really addressed this problem. So with Gentle's little invasion, Gentle's hoping that his little invasion is going to put the final nail in the coffin of, okay, this has happened, of the UA teacher saying, okay, this has happened way too fucking much. We finally need to take this shit seriously, and I'm hoping to God that they do, because honestly, like, this is actually something that really should have been addressed a long ass time ago, because and especially after the whole thing of and especially after the whole thing of All Might and All for One, like, it really should have been increased after that, because after that fight happened, the villain activity skyrocketed. So yeah, it's like Gentle's whole invasion. I'm really hoping that actually smacks the teachers awake or something, because yeah, that to me that is something that should have been happened long ago. And I know in situations like that there's that whole thing of pretty much how much freedom I know there's that whole thing of a versus of how much freedom do we give, how much freedom do we pretty much do we end up allowing the students versus how much do we actually have to limit the students. But in this case, I think protection of the students is going to take a little priority. Like, you can still have limitations on how much security you do have, but they have to be reasonable, and they have to be kept within a bounds that manages to keep the students safe. So yeah, I really hope that that's something actually comes of this. And Gentle himself, what can I say? At this point, the man is the definition of a villain with a heart of gold, because just seeing how Gentle and how Gentle and Brava met was, it was sweet enough on its own, but seeing that he genuinely wants to change things for her alone is really kind of incredible. And honestly, it's something like the whole relationship that Gentle and that Gentle has with is isn't the whole relationship that the Gentle and they have is it's normally something I'd see from the protagonist of a shonen, but to see it from Gentle does open up a mountain of possibilities for both these characters in terms of development just just seeing, like I said before, what exactly kind of effect that they can actually have on UA as a whole, because I genuinely want something to come of this for sure. Also, one thing I really appreciate about this chapter is how much detail into the planning itself Horikoshi displayed in regards to Gentle's strategy to invade UA by actually going step by step through the whole process of them planning the whole heist, or just the whole the whole heist in general. It was actually kind of refreshing in a way, and a nice change of pace to see how things are being planned out on the villain side. Like, I think we've seen in the past, I think we've seen a lot of planning on the hero's side, but we haven't seen a lot of planning on the villain side. I mean, we've gotten little tidbits, but nothing in great detail for me. So it was nice to see that. But yeah, guys, that's my review. Enjoy the video. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter and Facebook. That and that of anime. Signing off. Later, guys.